But this is the headline that we're going to want to look at is they have JD Vance down 3 points on Kamala Harris. What we're going to do, though, is look at Kamala Harris as a candidate again for 2028. And we're going to do it by examining a new pollster. And I have a set of crosstabs that we don't normally do this. They're not mine. They're this Overton Insights crosstabs. Now, I don't know a name behind these people yet. I haven't been able to find them. But this is actually funded by Libertas, which is Connor Boyack, author of the Tuttle Twins series. So he's super conservative and runs this nonprofit, and they're funding this pollster to go out and poll. Don't know who it is. The numbers seem to be a little bit left of mine, but it doesn't mean they're not necessarily viable. But the reason we're talking about this is because first off, look, their Democrat primary numbers are very similar to mine. Kamala Harris 38 to Pete Buttigieg 11, Gavin Newsom 10, AOC pulling a 7 instead of a 6. But this is the headline that we're going to want to look at is they have JD Vance down 3 points on Kamala Harris. Now, 11%, I guess. What is that? No, 40. That's 87. So it's like 13%. We're not sure, or some other candidates. That's kind of high. But also notice that Vance pulled a 42, and the last time we've done head-to-heads nationally with Vance, he was under 40. So that represents a pickup. That's better. And technically, this 45% is less than the amount that Kamala Harris got. Now, here it says, and in a 2024 rematch, Trump maintains a 3-point lead over Harris, 46 to 43. I think I would probably get something close to that. And so some of their other questions seem a little bit to the left of me, but these headlines sort of match up. So, I mean, the news is basically Vance has got to he's got to get hot, get on the public, get his face out there, have more publicity, because it'll probably be a tight race. Remember that at this point, coming into 3 months from now will be the time when in 2021 we did our first Biden-Trump rematch, and Trump beat Biden by like 11 points. That's where you want to be. Now, obviously, most of that went away because the Democrats campaigned a lot. They had the whole Supreme Court thing happen. They were pushing the whole abortion issue. Then they threw billions of dollars at Kamala Harris. And that's what it took to go from Trump plus 11 to Trump plus 2. So it would probably take a decent amount of effort to get, and again, Republicans have a registration advantage. Right direction polling is super high, but he has not yet converted all of the Trump vote. Obviously, if he's polling 6 points to the left of Donald Trump in a head-to-head national matchup. But there's some interesting stuff here. So we're just going to look through some of these questions because they're things that I don't often ask. They ask right direction, wrong track different than us, but they have 40% of the country at least somewhat satisfied with the direction of the country. 57% dissatisfied. So a little bit to the left, but part of that could be chalked up to maybe the way the question's asked. On the economy, people are less happy, 34% satisfied to 63% dissatisfied. And this is mixed mode, kind of like us. It's landline, online, but they use I think they use SMS as well. So they could just be reaching a somewhat different mix of people than us. People are very satisfied in their own personal life in general, 71%, 27%. That seems high to me. I would have guessed that economic issues would have made those questions, I don't know, less optimistic. Replacing the Star-Spangled Banner with America the Beautiful. Fascinating. Never thought to ask that. But it's only 21% supported, 59% opposed. Is there a party signal? Nope, no party signal. Republicans and Democrats, exactly the same there. Trump job approval, 43% approve to 54% disapprove. So underwater 9 points. This puts them kind of in the Fox News pollster vicinity, not quite as bad as Quinnipiac or CNN. Floating around there in the sort of like YouGov economist range. Based on that question, right? Like some of these questions are different. New data centers for artificial intelligence. What? We don't need to look at that. Work as a freelancer. I thought some of these office questions were interesting. So only 59% of the country says that they work 4+ days in an office a week. But 25, what's that? 33, 40% say 3 days or less. And 31% of the country says they work under 30 hours. This is out of freelancers and contractors, though. Do you vacation time? No, let's get to the good stuff. AI chatbots, emotional conversations, and service companions for users. Interesting. Sometimes even forming romantic or deeply personal relationships from them. From a privacy standpoint, how concerned are you that these types of interactions could result in sensitive personal information being misused or exposed in the future? So like Elon sells your data or something. Wow, 78% concerned, 41% very. That's pretty high. That's up there with like how concerned are you we're living in a police state, almost as high. Regulatory sandbox. No, we don't need to go. How serious do you believe corruption such as academic fraud, recruitment violations, or bribery is in college sports? Isn't this an interesting grab bag? 73% say it's at least a somewhat serious problem, 31% very serious, and only 17% not serious. That's interesting. I never would have thought it was that high. Game manipulation in the NBA and NFL, point shaving and fixing outcomes. Actually, 48% of people have some or a great deal of trust. And only 42% not much or no trust at all. This is cool. There's some really good questions in here about party. Which of the following institutions has the most issues with corruption, whether in financial practices, competitive integrity, or oversight? 26% say the White House. 21% say Congress. 10% health industry. 9% U.S. court systems. 9% Hollywood. 6% Wall Street. So that's fascinating. So obviously what's happening here is that these are splitting the Republican vote, I'm guessing. Yeah, Republicans 10% White House, but they spread it out over all of these. Whereas Democrats almost exclusively say the White House, 42% of them, only 10% for Republicans. But their independents, again, are left or leaning. I think it gets into them than mine are. Although my independents are pretty left leaning right now. They got super right over the last year. Some people believe political parties face challenges with corruption. In your opinion, which political party is more corrupt when it comes to misusing public funds or abusing political power? And Republicans take it 32% to 30% Democrats. And I think this is actually a Republican +4 poll, believe it or not. But 14% of Republicans say Republicans, and 15% of Democrats say Democrats. And Republicans say Democrats less than Democrats say Republicans. And independents are more likely to say Republicans than Democrats, 25% to 17%. Yeah, so party ID here. Republicans 37%, Democrats 33%. Everybody else 30%. R+4. But again, I don't think only 62% of the Republicans say they're a strong Republican. Usually Republicans are stronger in their convictions. 61% of Democrats say they're a strong Democrat. So if there's a weakness, I would probably say it's there. But this is just me sort of quibbling about like details with them. They could be more right than me on this. I don't know. Maybe it's just my top lines are calibrated right to get the right As a Democrat, if you've previously identified as a Democrat, is there anything that they could do to earn back your support? 34% not sure, 33%. 34% no, 33% yes, a complete wash. But what could the Democrat Party do to earn back your support? For Democrats who think the party could earn back their support, it needs to help the middle or working class. That's MAGA stuff. Fight corruption and big money. MAGA stuff. Fight Republicans or be more liberal, 27%. Interesting. This is independents who left the Democrat Party and say they might come back. Those are the things. Change leadership, remove Trump. That's funny. So some Democrats fled to independent because they thought the Democrat Party wasn't effective enough at removing Trump. So then they have the same question for Republicans. But for independents who previously identified as Republicans, 49% of them say that, yes, the party can do something to earn them back. Way more than Democrats. That's interesting. What could it do? See, here's the thing. 30% of them say change leadership or remove or distance itself from Trump. So you have, according to this, the biggest chunk of disaffected Republicans who became independents, who will go back to being Republicans or just waiting as independents for Trump to leave. I don't buy it with right direction polling as high as it is. And Trump job approval, again, matching or surpassing what he did in November. There's just this thread of logical inconsistency that makes me question. Again, I don't think they're lying. I think it's just different. Stronger leadership and defend the Constitution. So some people left because they're not conservative enough. More honesty, transparency, or integrity. Move to the center to collaborate with Democrats, 19%. I'm not feeling the same level of angerness and political divisiveness. And this could be because they're getting a lot of SMS. Maybe they did a lot of that. I don't know. Problem with SMS is you're getting the younger people, you're getting the more normies, but you're also getting people who respond to their phone. And that's different. You're basically polling people who are most susceptible to Nigerian scammers. It's tough. Do you feel politically homeless today? 34% say yes, and it's more Democrats. And definitely a ton of independents, 53%. I think my independents are happy that they're independents. I don't know. I should ask that question to benchmark. This is literally the question I should do. See how close I get in this column right here. Who did you vote for in the 2024 election? It looks like they waited to recall the vote. So Donald Trump won by 2 points. They probably waited to that. And now they have Trump up 3. So they have Trump gaining support. Their generic congressional ballot for 24, though, was Democrats +1 when the answer was Republicans +3. Interesting. So they're getting a lot of Trump voting Democrats and independents and underselling Republicans here. Here's the rematch question. Kamala Harris would only get 80%. See, it's not Harris voters, it's other. So that'll include third party or independent. Thinking ahead, here's the primary question. Kamala Harris, 38% of this is all Democrats. Very, 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 very similar to mine, except Buttigieg does a little bit better than Newsom. And nobody else gets above 10. And look, it's the exact same question options. Interesting. And they poll Stephen A. Smith. Ay, is my alter ego doing this? This was not me. This is not my poll. Thinking ahead, if the election were held today, no, they have him as an add-on to that question. He gets 2%. Democrats don't want this guy. But I bet you they didn't have a rotator in. That doesn't matter for online, obviously. Well, it matters a little bit, but for the phone, it probably does. And this is for why is this different? No, it's not. Oh, they removed Kamala Harris. So without Kamala Harris there, it's neck and neck between Buttigieg and Waltz and Newsom, 15%. AOC pulling up 11. Shapiro with the distant 8. See, Shapiro polls better in my numbers. Don't know why. Thinking ahead to the 2028, if it was just between Harris and AOC and Charles Barkley, of all people, Kamala gets 67 to 20. Charles Barkley gets a 6. For the Republican, we have not done this yet. We'll probably do one with and without Trump on, just to see, for fun. JD Vance gets 32% to Donald Trump Jr. 26%. I guess that seems high to me. I don't know. I'm surprised, just because people know who he is, obviously, but it doesn't seem like he's done a lot of posturing to be the candidate. Ron DeSantis at only an 11%. His political career appears to be over. Marco Rubio is almost up to DeSantis now at 9%. Nikki Haley gets a 7. So DeSantis can't even double Nikki Haley. And RFK doesn't have a future as a Republican, obviously. Vivek is totally gone, 3%. So it's going to be a question about whether Trump Jr. runs, whether JD Vance is his successor, whether somehow DeSantis or Rubio can put together some kind of campaign that gets people's attention. But like Vance looks like the shoe-in right now. They have Dave Portnoy, Joe Rogan, and JD Vance going against each other. JD Vance wins handily, 74%. David Portnoy as a Republican? I don't see it. And here's the matchup. Vance 42%, Harris 45%. Harris winning by 13 points with independents. I don't think that's going to happen. I think if their independents were more like mine, that Vance would come closer to a tie, but we would still have Trump up 3 points. I think that's what would happen. JD Vance would beat Charles Barkley as a Democrat, 43 to 34. I told you this was wild. This is a good poll. It's fun. Here's ideology. I guess the rest of this is just demographics. Charles Barkley losing to JD Vance by almost 10 points. Interesting. Yeah, nothing else. All right. That was cool.